Well, I am real excited for my guest today, Martin Pytela, and he is a metabolic typing coach, if you have any clue what that is. But I promise you're going to want to listen to the next 3 episodes to see if he can't figure out what's wrong with you, just like he figured out in less than 10 minutes what was wrong with me by categorizing people according to their endocrine system, their diets, and whether or not they are more on the alkaline state or acidic state. This first episode, he gives an overview of what Metabolic Typing Coach is, how he got into it from a mercury poisoning event when he was a child, and how he overcame that years later and vowed to be dedicated to finding the root cause of all these diseases and issues with people versus the typical Western approach of just throwing Band-Aids on everything. So if you're interested, stay tuned. This is part 1 of 3 of an interview I did with Martin Pytela from Life Enthusiast podcast.
How's it going? This is Brad Williams with Over 40 Fitness Hacks, the podcast where I help you, being over 40, to fight the aging process without giving up your social life. I've been a personal trainer and gym owner for over 14 years, and I specialize in helping the over 40 crowd get to their goals. If you need a little bit of guidance, check out my show notes. I have a link to schedule a free 15-minute Zoom call, and you can ask all the questions you want. But enough of that. Let's get on with the episode.
Martin, thanks for coming on my show. We're excited to find out more about what you do, your certification, metabolic typing coach. It's very interesting and unique, and I'm hoping it comes with a lot of bells and whistles and data and testing that my over 40 audience can do for the whole slew of problems being over 40 now. So I'll let you take it away. Tell us more about you and what you're all about.
All right. Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, Brad.
Yeah.
I got to hear through a fluke. I have a degree in computer science and business administration. As a 25-year-old, I walked into a dentist's office and got myself 12 mercury amalgam fillings, and that really destroyed my health. I was 25 then, and so the next 10 years until I was 35, I was in a dramatic decline of health. And I realized at some point that the mainstream will not help me. I tried surgeons and orthopedics and chiropractics and naturopathics, and then esoteric like I did, all kinds of weird stuff. Most of them were chasing the symptom. And my symptoms was my physical structure was collapsing. My back was shot. I had carpal tunnel and plantar fasciitis and back pain like you wouldn't believe, stuff like that. And weight gain and allergies and periodontal problems, all of which was caused by mercury toxicity.
Wow.
But the good folks were chasing symptoms, which was, you have a back problem, let's go to a chiropractor. You have a blah, blah problem, let's go to that specialist.
That's the care versus healthcare system.
Yeah, that. And so about 12 years in, I just decided that I was going to study the human body and did, and discovered that all of that professional stuff that I was being treated with was bunk. They don't understand. They do not go after the root cause. In business consulting, we always ask, well, what is the cause of that? In healthcare, they don't. They just
Band-Aids.
Band-Aid.
Yep. I know it all too well as well.
You grow up in it, right? I grew up in a veterinarian's family. I think you grew up in an MD's family, right?
Yeah. Dad was a medical doctor in the family practice, doctor, also infectious disease specialist. And then mom was a nurse. So I had that whole upbringing and same thing over the years and going into personal training and kind of going against the grain because nothing's working and discovering some of the things that we were taught by Western society. It's not the greatest. However, when you're in massive pain and you want those drugs, oh my God, it's got its place too. So,
well, sure. I mean, you definitely want to have the out button, like pause button or some button that helps you just cope. And so, of course, I would go to the chiropractor twice a week and he would put me back together. And then within 3 or 4 days, the adjustment was lost and I was back in pain again. So he would put me back together and I would slide out of it. And the problem was that my tendons, ligaments, and all of the connective tissues were not strong enough. They were not holding together. And so I found a fix. The fix was free-form branch-chain amino acids, but it was not fixing the cause of it. It was just sort of adjusting it, right? Yeah. It's sort of like you have a leaky tire, and so the car drives wobbly because the tire is not strong enough. So you put some air in it, so you're good for another 100 miles, but it's going to leak and you'll be in trouble again in 100 miles.
Yeah. And all this was caused by mercury poisoning?
Mercury for me. And here's an interesting thing. We are living in an industrial age. Started around 1800 or so, the industrialization, the manufacturing of steel, and then electricity, and then plastics and fertilizers. All of these things are coming into the environment, and the level of toxicity is going up with each passing year. So my generation, I was born in the 50s, growing up 50s, 60s, it was a lot cleaner world than what you grew up in. And my children are more affected by the environment than I am. And my grandchildren, and I'm watching them, they're in trouble all the time.
Yep. Farming practices are polluted air, polluted water, everything. I'm same here.
That's a big deal. So you're asking me about my history. Well, so my history is going through the fire of being really unwell, and the choice was either become a victim or overcome it. And so in my process of overcoming, I got myself certified as CMTA, Certified Metabolic Typing Advisor. And metabolic typing is a funny method. It's part of the general functional medicine world. But what this discovered is that there are several dominances. And there are actually ancient theories that work. Like, for example, in India, they have this Ayurvedic system of doshas where they have the Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and they describe the human body as in a certain way. Even the modern science talks about people, there is actually an association, and we call it endocrine dominance. And there are four. You have thyroid dominant, adrenal dominant, pituitary dominant, and all men are testosterone drive, but women, if they are estrogen drive, which is the gonadal dominance, they look more feminine than other women. Secondary characteristics, the wider hips and that sort of thing, that's actually a endocrine dominance feature. So to illustrate, if you're a thyroid dominant, you tend to have slim limbs. The wrists are not big, the ankles are not big. You tend to be on the, well, like all basketball players and volleyball players will be for sure thyroid dominant. But the interesting part about that is that they will do well on a certain meal plan, which will be the lighter proteins with every meal. They will lose weight on keto and gain weight on starch. But if you're adrenal dominant, you are now built more like a linebacker. You have chest this deep and ankles this big and calves the size of my thigh. And what's interesting about them is that they will gain weight with fat and lose weight with fruits and veggies.
Wow.
So it's totally flipped. So if you have a linebacker who's now out of service, if he continues on the 4,000, 5,000 calorie diet without the heavy energetic output, he'll balloon in weight like you won't believe.
Wow. What's the last two?
Oh, so the pituitary, that's the classic nerd body type. Larger head. Typically, the legs are the X shape, the knees together, like the least fit looking type, right? Like they're the classic nerd. Cabbage Patch doll in girls and doughboy in boys. And what's really interesting about them is that their their temptation food is creamy and like ice cream, whipping cream, fluffy food. But their super health food is the high purine innards, like heart, tongue, liver, kidney, brain, all the offal that most people go, ugh, but it's in fact health food to them.
Wow. Okay.
Well, and of course, if they eat ice cream and cake, to be awful looking.
Okay. And then what's the last one?
Oh, so the female drive, the estrogen drive, that is actually stimulated by hot food, like spicy. So you have some women who really like hot, spicy, Thai, Mexican, whatever, Tabasco. And if they indulge in their younger years, they will stimulate the ovaries to push estrogen. And they will end up with like size 3 above waist and size 6 below waist.
Yeah.
They will be super attractive to the men because, of course, they get this overdrive on the feminine characteristics.
Yeah.
Like in extreme, you have the Nicki Minaj tush, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And all this is because they were that type and they had spicy
If they
foods.
push,
So if on that same female side they were that type and didn't have any spicy foods growing up, then you would see the results from
be
that.
less so. They will not
Okay,
drive like that.
interesting.
Yeah,
Just from everything you said, I feel like I'm the thyroid
you
because
totally are. You look at.
thin wrists, thin calves, ankles. It
Yeah.
took a lot of work to bodybuild anything up.
Yeah, yeah. You're not the bodybuilder type. You
Yeah,
do put on mass easily.
yeah. But I've learned to adapt and get there. So I wouldn't call
Yeah.
myself a full ectomorph, but I think everything you said that works, I've already been doing those things. So,
Oh yeah, you
so I
would have.
figured it
If
out.
you're successful in your trade,
Yeah.
and so you have discovered it. It's the weight loss industry that so underserves the typical person because you need to first ask what endocrine type are you before you start suggesting what diet they should be on.
Yeah.
The thyroid type does best on 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, each about the same size and each with some protein. So don't give me intermittent fasting because it is not going to work great. And the temptation food for the thyroid type is carby, starchy. So whether it's a donut or a cake or a bag of potato chips or whatever's, even popcorn, that's the temptation food that will put weight on.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out how you're going to have protein, not excessive protein, just enough, but it's fat that keeps you slim. So you need to have an omelet for breakfast or a salad with olive oil for lunch and stir fry again with a piece of meat, but don't spare the fat.
Yeah. That's what I've discovered from my diet is mid to high protein. Maybe I don't even need that much protein, but enjoy the fats, clean fats. And starches, I've learned that from a long time ago that they don't do much for me. I'm not athletic anymore. I'm not playing sports. So I did very well on low carb, but I just ate carbs because that's what you were supposed to do back in the day. I never had the temptation, though. It was never there. So it was easy to kick it out. Alcohol is my problem.
And so what's funny is when you screw up your morning with not having protein and fat, you will have extra cravings in the evening, and your cravings will be for the wrong stuff.
Wow. So someone that's just going quickly, like how you help people, you put them through some tests, you do blood work, or you just do question and answers and then figure it out?
Well, let me answer the second question in the metabolic typing quivers. I have the quiver with arrows. So one of the arrows is the metabolic type, and that helps us understand weight
Okay.
management. The other thing is called metabolic dominance, and that has us understand how the pH evolves in the body. And the pH that drives this. So when it comes to the pH, it drives the mood. Like if you're alkaline, well, let's just say in balance, you have lots of choices. As you drift into alkalinity, you become a procrastinator. And if you drive further out, you become despondent, like hopeless. The world is really dark. And then if you push it even further out into more alkalinity, you get depressed, suicidally, clinically depressed. Now, acidity, so going now into the acidic republic, we start with impatience. Then we go into loss of social graces, interrupting people, swearing at them, being just, chop, do it, come on, move it, that sort of mode. And then if you are external, then you're going to be angry at people. Road rage is a beautiful manifestation of overacidity. If you are more internally referencing, then you'll succumb to anxiety. You will be running thoughts about the future in your head, and you'll be just imagining horrible things. Or you'll be running into the past and you'll be reliving all the failures that you have made in your life. You will be just beating yourself up for all of the things that you didn't do right.
Yeah.
That's anxiety drive, and that's stuck in the acidity terrain.
Is that for all the types, or this is more
Everybody.
specifically for the thyroid type? Oh, this is everybody.
Everybody has a metabolic dominance. Everybody can be alkaline or acidic. If you are swinging between alkaline and acidic, you're bipolar, going from depression to manic.
Wow. I had a lot of depression growing up from probably sixth grade all the way through college. And the way I beat it and was going more low carb keto and then giving up keto, just staying more low carb, and it's never come back. And when I have too many cheat days of carbs and all that, all those kind of thoughts and darkness slowly comes back. So I'm wondering, does the carbohydrates push me in the more alkaline, or is it
Yes, sir.
that different? So there we go.
Yep. And so for you, alcohol is a calming affair. If you have one drink, you become calmer. You can get over your upset. If you have a second drink, you start to overshare and be maybe a little too emotional. On a third drink, you become depressed or fall asleep.
I think I just fell asleep. I never got depressed.
Well, I mean, if you keep it up, you're going
Yeah.
to rest.
Gotcha.
Like Ernest Hemingway, the more he drank, the more depressed he got until he couldn't stand it and blew his head out.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that.
There we go.
So there are these two types. The same way as you can be left-handed or right-handed, you can have the drive, and that the label on that is used autonomic dominant or oxidizer dominant. An autonomic dominant, which is what you said you were, gets alkaline with starch and gets acidic with fat. So for you, if you want to get stuff done, you eat fat. You fire yourself up. With fat, you will have drive. You will put that away. You will go to sleep.
And then worse if you go farther down.
And all the way to the dark. Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
And so the oxidizer is the other way around. It's like two opposite vectors. So the oxidizer, the more he drinks, the more he wants to punch you in the face. Like when you see oxidizers at a party, they start with first drink, they get louder.
Mhm.
Second drink, they get argumentative. And with third drink, they actually pick fights.
Yeah. We've all seen those people.
Yeah, they're out there. And so the oxidizer, if he wants to have a nice nap, he must push fat. There's this thing called the autonomic nervous system, which has the two branches, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Sympathetic being the fight, flight, rest, repair, digest. So if you want to repair your body, you must be in the alkaline athletic state. If you want to be in an octagon fighting somebody, you better put yourself into a fight, flight, sympathetic state. Because if you're not, you're going to get
Killed.
You'll be slow. You'll be too relaxed.
Okay.
But, right? And this is driven with minerals. So the sympathetic drive is calcium, parasympathetic drive is magnesium. But what's interesting is this. Every movement of a muscle, to shorten a muscle, you use calcium. Lengthen a muscle, you use magnesium. So visualize a sprinter or a football player who has very strong quads and very strong hamstrings. If he doesn't have enough magnesium, the lengthening of the muscle will be slower than the shortening of the muscle done with calcium. So as you start running, the knee goes up, the quad is shortening, the hamstring is supposed to be lengthening in response. It's too slow. You pull a hamstring by having not enough magnesium for the relaxation of the muscle. So you need to have a balance of these minerals, and then you're running like a cheetah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It can't be one or the other to focus on, and they both need to be balanced for both those actions to happen.
Trouble happens in North America because our nutrition is overly rich in calcium. The soil is rich in calcium, but poor in magnesium. So the foods we eat are underloaded with magnesium. And so if we don't supplement magnesium, we end up injuring ourselves, just being too stressy. And of course, then there's the modern lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? When you get in a car to drive for half an hour from A to B, you have to be on for the entire half an hour, like 360 awareness, all the mirrors, like you are on. That's an entire half an hour in sympathetic drive. If you don't have enough magnesium on board to come down off of it, you're going to stay in it and you're going to not repair the damage that you just caused.
Wow.
So likewise in the gym, right?
Yeah, same thing.
One of the best things you can do is get a bottle of the magnesium oil, which is actually a water solution of magnesium chloride, and rub it on your major muscles, arms, legs, belly, whatever. Just not a huge quantity. It's like 2 teaspoons of it. And you just rub it down before your workout, because you will have the opposing muscles not struggling against your work.
Wow. And then, so taking it orally wouldn't do the same as rubbing oil on, or it's just a quicker,
Well,
if
so
you're
the
worried
thing
about that event.
with the parasympathetic is that it triggers your digestion. So when you swallow magnesium, it causes a bowel cleansing effect. So if you take the dose that I need on top internally, you're just going to have to go to the bathroom and get rid of all the food that you ate in the last 24 hours. It's
Yeah,
coming.
it's coming out. Okay, that's a cool trick.
And so when you put it on top, it goes into the lymphatics and it's available in the body fluids rather than in the gut.
Yeah.
That's a really cool trick. Like I've had a friend of mine, like I'm now 70 something, Masters League playing hockey. He says, I rub down with magnesium oil. I get on the ice. I don't have to come off for 2 hours because I'm just being polite to come off the ice so somebody else can take a turn. But I am on. I do not wear out.
Yeah. I've played ice hockey, and after a minute and a half, I won out. I know what he's.
Of course, and being a thyroid dominant, of course, you are a fast twitch. So you're great at sprint and you're not so great at endurance.
That's it.
That's the other thing, right? The adrenal dominant are awesome at sustaining long stretches of hard work. The thyroid are better at output, quick and over and rest. Well, of course, you have demonstrated that probably with intermittent, what's it called?
Oh, yeah. Time under tension.
Yeah, time under tension. Beautiful words, right? And you shorten it and then let go and restore, because otherwise you build up the lactic acid and
Exactly.
Thank you for listening. And I just wanted to put out there, if anyone has any questions about dieting, working out, supplements, fasting, I can go on and on with all the different topics on this show. Please check out my show notes for my email or check out my website contact page. And let me know what your question is, and I'll do a whole episode about it. One of the funnest parts of training clients is, everyone's different, has different issues. There's always that one thing that kind of catches me off guard, and I might actually have to do a little research for it, but I love playing that personal trainer detective. So please reach out if you have something, and thanks for listening. If you'd like a little bit of help checking out your diet and your current routine, I'd be happy to help. I always do a free 15-minute Zoom consultation for anyone, no strings attached, just to see if I can help point you in the right direction. So if you're interested, check out the show notes. The link is at the top.